Good day, everyone. Today we'll be taking a look at my Ayaka team, clearing all the chambers in the second round of 2.0's Spiral Abyss. Now for the first wave in the first half, I think the most important thing to note is that if you hit one of the Nobushi with a forced displacement attack, they will immediately use their jump back into the forward dash attack. So you want to use this to group them in whichever way you would like to. Now by forced displacement, I mean pretty much anything that causes the enemy to be knocked back, knocked upwards, dragged inwards, or just has high stagger. So in this party, Ayaka's, Traveler's, and Bennett's elemental skills will all trigger it, as well as Bennett and the Traveler's charge attack, whereas Ayaka's charge attack will not because it doesn't have high enough stagger. Now this is by no means the only way you can use this to group them together. Just before showing the gear, I will also share an additional clip of a totally different way you can manipulate this mechanic to group them in a different way. One of the most important things throughout this entire dungeon is to try and keep an internal clock of when you will gain energy and when you will not gain energy. Now if you're using a bunch of characters with say 20-second ultimates, this can be very easy. You can simply use that as your timer to figure out when the next period of time you're going to gain energy will be. Now getting into the second half, I think this is by far and away the most annoying part of this abyss. Personally, I just hate all of the Sisson Mage type enemies, and so no, I'm in a bad time whenever I see one. Now the Anemo character I'm using here is the Anemo Traveler for two reasons. The first being that Sucrose, aside from gathering enemies and being a resistance shred, doesn't really do anything else, whereas the Anemo Traveler has yet an additional 20% resistance shred, and so can further increase our damage. The second reason is specifically this chamber, because unlike the other Anemo Travelers in the game who simply gather enemies to a center point, the Anemo Traveler instead gathers enemies and drags them from point A to point B. This can be quite useful in this stage, is that you can use her ultimate to drag, say, the Electro Sisson Mage all the way over to the Mirror Maiden. Now this run, the Mirror Maiden ends up teleporting to us and getting caught in the ultimate, but the usefulness of this remains. It's a very good idea to make sure that you will have her ultimate up so that you can quickly drag them together, try to nuke them down before they have the time to teleport away from you and start causing you a massive headache. Now for the first half of the second chamber, it begins with just two Meta-Trolls who go down very easily, even if you still somehow cannot manage to dodge their attacks. And then once they're down, you are met with a Thunderhide Hilichurl and a Hydro Abyss Mage. I would suggest going to the Thunderhide Hilichurl and starting to get down his Electro Shield, as the Abyss Mage will just teleport to you anyway, and then you can face the Thunderhide Hilichurl towards a wall so that he and the Abyss Mage, once he teleports to you, are in a nice position for you to nuke them down. Now with possibly the easiest chamber out of the way, we come to the one that may well take the longest. Ayaka starts this fight with practically no energy, but even though we cannot actually damage him, we can still get energy particles off of him. And so as you can see here, I throw down a bunch of characters' abilities to be able to get energy for Ayaka, which manages to totally fill her burst, and so that we can start the fight off on a fairly strong point. So I don't think you have to worry too overly much in the Sisson Mage chamber of trying to make sure that you have enough ultimate for Magokenki, as you can simply gain that energy at the start, when you're not able to really do any damage to him anyway. Now of course the Magokenki fight is pretty much just the normal Magokenki fight with more health, so there really isn't tremendous amount to say here, aside from watching me constantly screw up my combos and not really pay enough attention to the tides. In a way, the first half versus the second half of these chambers can show the difference of planning around the tides versus kind of just doing things.
消えるんだ。神里流消滅。踊りなさい。
And now, with the Mago Kenki down, we get into the first half of the final chambers, where we can really see just how big a difference Ayaka's ultimate makes to her damage output, as in the first half we have her ultimate, and in the second half we do not. As we can see, we simply just blow through the Abyss Hunter. Once the final group of ads spawn, I simply go to the ranged unit, throw a cryo on them, toss out the Traveler's ultimate for the 60% resistance shred, and start setting up my buffs and throw out some energy particles for Ayaka to burst them down. Now, as we get into the second half, we shall see some very much so not as clean gameplay, and how much less damage Ayaka does without having her ultimate.
運命よ、ここにいでよ。運命よ。失礼。みんなは俺が守れ。運命の巨人。雪を前。運命には逆らえません。運命よ。神里流消滅。失礼。消えるんだ。燃えろ。みんながそばに。これが運命です。運命に踊りなさい。取った。全力攻撃。安全距離確認。運命には逆らえません。運命よ。取った。失礼。
Now getting into the gear, we can see that my Ayaka is very attainable. Anyone with some star glitter can obtain a sword that is perhaps even better for her. Her flower and feather are decent, but not amazing. Her timepiece isn't the best. Her cryo goblet's very decent, and her circlet is pretty bad. Whereas the remaining characters' gear aren't really particularly good either, especially the Nemo Traveler, as I've kind of just thrown on whatever I happen to have onto her. But with that, we reach the end of the video. How have your Abyss runs been in 2.0? Are you using any new characters or new teams? Or have you found any interesting tactics to deal with some of the enemies in the current Abyss? Do let me know down below in the comments. Thank you for watching, look forward to seeing you again next time, and hope you all have a great day.